and welcome to Sport Tonight. I'm Cecilia Mogbe in Lagos.
London. I'm Austin Okonakman, always an action-packed sort of sports. And Cecilia, thank God it's Friday.
Yes.
It means we're getting into a weekend of sporting action.
And of course, getting into the sporting action, we're starting off with the Australian Open. That's where all the action will be on Saturday and of course on Sunday. For the men's final, the two best players will be in action on Sunday, and for the women, of course, you have someone who has never been to a Grand Slam final at the Australian Open before, Madison Keys, and of course world number one Arina Sabalenka. So while the women is between world number one and number 19 in the world, but for the men is 1 and 2. Novak Djokovic, of course, expectedly after that struggle against Carlos Alcaraz, he couldn't continue anymore. The tight tear that he had at that particular match, after 80 minutes against Alexander Zverev, he had to retire. He was booed off the court. We will focus on that on the show tonight. What is next for Novak Djokovic? Are we going to see him again at the Australian Open next year? Fingers crossed. 5 Grand Slams he took part in the last season. He could not win any. All right, Djokovic is at the end for him. The big three, 2 of them retired, just one left, and he's the only one left on the scene. So watch and see if he's going to continue playing tennis, especially after this injury. That will be our focus on the show tonight. Of course, our tennis expert, she will be joining us on the show. We'll unveil her shortly after this introduction. NPFL is back. And of course, games across Nigeria, we will talk about that on the show tonight. We'll touch down in the English Premier League. Manchester City and Chelsea, they will be in action also this weekend. And of course, we will also talk about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The draw for AFCON will be done on Monday, and Super Eagles are import one. So it simply means the big teams like Senegal, Egypt, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria will not be meeting them at the group stage because they are in the same pot. The analysis of that will be done on the show tonight. All right, Austin, yes, it is a loaded package, and of course, we are starting up with tennis. Australian Open, the two men that will be playing the final on Sunday. Was it expected of you? Before we introduce our guests to join us on the analysis of this.
No, it wasn't expected. I said it all day, every day. Right after I watched Novak Djokovic beat Carlos Alcaraz, I asked that important question that who can stop Novak Djokovic? And today, injury said, yes, I can stop Novak Djokovic, and that's just what it is. With that sort of performance against Carlos Alcaraz, it was difficult for anyone to stop. It was going to be very difficult for anyone to stop Novak Djokovic, but it is what it is. These things happen with tennis. Let's see if Yannick Sinner can go on to retain his title. I think Alexander Zverev also deserves a shot at it, but can he really, push Sinner all the way? I don't think so, but hey, stranger things have happened in tennis.
Yes.
With some Madison Keys, Keystone, the great Iga Swiatek, so you never know. Let's see. But now that Djokovic is out of it, I know it took some steam out of the competition, Cecilia, but
all right.
We'll wait to see what tennis will give us tomorrow and Sunday.
Yeah, we're waiting, of course. Biola Solis Chuku, tennis broadcaster, is joining us on the show tonight. Biola, I haven't seen you in a long while. How are you doing? Good evening.
I'm fine, Cici. Good evening. Good to see you. I guess I should say Happy New Year like twice because it's been a while.
Yeah, twice Happy New Year to you too. Biola, you love tennis, you talk tennis. The two finalists that we are having at the Australian Open this year, did you expect that Alexander Zverev? Yes, for the last few months, he's been consistent, and that's why he had to rise up to number 2. And of course, Yannick Sinner was expected. Well, with Djokovic in the mix, playing good tennis, we all thought that he will make it to the final. But were you surprised by the two finalists at the Australian Open this year?
Yes, I definitely was surprised by the Alexander Zverev part. Even before the tournament, I was certain that Yannick Sinner was going to make the final again. Going into this particular Australian Open, I would have said Djokovic wouldn't make the final, but seeing the form he was in, he even struggled through injury and beat Carlos Alcaraz. I was so certain he would beat Alexander Zverev. He, in these big moments, tends to falter sometimes. But, like Austin said, injuries said no. Knowing Novak Djokovic, he can push himself for so long. So for him to retire from a match after a first set, he was sure that he couldn't push his body for a best of 5 today. So yeah, I was pretty surprised that Djokovic didn't make it to the final. I think everyone had already had a Djokovic versus Yannick Sinner final planned.
That plan, when it all started with Zverev and of course his performance, and then after that, when Djokovic retired after 80 minutes, he was booed off the court by some section at the Australian at the Australian Open. Was it something? I didn't expect that to happen. I mean, is it something that how can we stop things like this? Because when Zverev was asked after the game, he was pretty upset. He didn't want to talk about his next opponent. We kept talking about Djokovic deserved all the respect he needed because of the way he was booed off court after he retired with that tie he had.
I must say it was really baffling to me because I feel like the big three, that's Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, all had their slams. And this was, or should I say, is Novak Djokovic's slam. He has literally won this title 10 times. And you would expect the crowd to be more empathetic towards him, But then booing him, of course, knowing he was injured and couldn't finish the match, I think the crowd was a little inconsiderate. I mean, I posted that I understand completely that they paid a whole lot of money to watch on Rod Laver. It was, a big moment. But booing the greatest player of this tournament of all time off the court injured, I think it's really sad. I don't think this is something that would have happened to, for instance, Rafael Nadal at Roland Garros. No, I definitely don't see that happening. So I think Djokovic definitely deserves more respect than he got today.
Yeah.
Okay. I totally agree with you. He deserves more respect, but Biola, let's not also forget the drama, that GQ publication where he alleged that food poisoning. Some of the fans didn't forget about it. But just hold your thoughts. I'll come back to you. Let's bring in Joseph Atewe. He joins us on the show. He's right there in Oshogbo in Nigeria. Joseph Atewe, good to have you on Sports Tonight. Are you also surprised that injury stopped Djokovic?
Well, injury might have stopped Djokovic, but like I said, he was odds favorite. Going into the competition as I predicted. But then injury, as you said, stopped him. But then our guest, of course, that's the lady. I mean, she talked about, how surprised she is, having Djokovic booed. You talked further, Austin, about the GQ interview. Let's not forget what happened in 2020, the COVID-19 period, the vaccination period. What happened during that period? So many dramas came to play. And you do not expect that they will forget in a hurry. And, to cap it all up, what is said in that interview, just put everything in one bracket, summed it up, that Djokovic had something with the Australian government and the authorities and to those who organized the competition and to an extent the people, because he said it was poisoned. And, that's a long statement. I'm being careful with my choice of words here. So I wasn't surprised that, that he had that, but I feel like Djokovic, he did well, honestly, at the competition. And, being booed, like she said, it was over the board, it was expected.
I don't think so. I think the fans need to understand that the game is fair play, and truly you don't boo that sort of player. He gave us a fantastic quarterfinal match against, Carlos Alcaraz, one that we'll always talk about. But Biola, let's go into the women's category now. I told Cecilia last week that I don't want to talk women's tennis until I know the finalists. And now we've got a finalist. It's Madison Keys, who is chasing her first Grand Slam title. She's 59, Biola.
Yes, she is.
Look at who she's going against, Arina Sabalenka, and the form she's facing. Should we expect another upset or just give Arina a title at Rod Laver Arena?
Well, I wouldn't say we should just hand it to Arina Sabalenka. These are two really similar players. They're both very big hitters. To be honest, I think Arina Sabalenka is going to win it. But I don't think Madison Keys is going to hand it to her on a platter. I think it's going to be a tight match. I think, Madison Keys is riding on incredible confidence right now. Nothing gives you better confidence than beating Iga Swiatek from match points down. it was a big deal. And this is our very first Grand Slam final since 2017, since US Open 2017. This is a big chance for her. I think she also needs to keep in mind that she had a really good opportunity to win the US Open in 2023, but she kind of choked it against the same Arina Sabalenka in the semi-final. She was 2 sets to love up, served for the match, but then choked literally and lost the match in 3 sets. So I think she can beat Arina Sabalenka, or at least push her. She would have to go all out, but Sabalenka is so comfortable on this court. She has won the title 2 years back to back. She just seems to be the queen of Melbourne at this point. So I think Sabalenka will win it, but it's not going to be easy peasy.
I totally agree with you, Cecilia. We talked about it. We talked about this yesterday. Are you changing direction?
I'm not changing. I talked about you not having a player that have won in this century. Last time it was done, Martina Hingis in 1990, and that was a long time ago. So 3-peat, it's something that Sabalenka can do because we realized how she has been able to put out her opponents. I mean, she caught Badoza, her soulmate, her best friend. She didn't give her a chance, not even a set. So it shows you how ruthless she is when it comes to this court at Melbourne. But before we go through the men, how they got to this, Yannick Sinner, Biola, it's someone, I mean, he's been consistent. He's also defending champion. You've had 2 defending champions for the men and of course the women, both of them in the final. For Yannick Sinner against Belchetti gave him his flowers. He did it remarkably well. He was one of those players that they expect to get into the semi-final. But the way he lost to Yannick Sinner, he kind of choked. Let me borrow your word, because I thought he could have been able to get that set, that point he couldn't get. And when Sinner, discovered that, I mean, he knew what he needed to do, and after that there was no coming back for Ben Shelton. But he's run to the semi-final. How will you rate a top player like this?
How would I rate Ben Shelton? Is that what you mean?
Shelton, yes, Ben Shelton, the way he carried up to this part, yes.
From the moment he turned pro, he hasn't been on tour for so long. Yes. I think Ben Shelton turned pro early 2023 or late 2022 actually. I think he has, at least found a level of consistency. For someone who hasn't been pro for so long, who is still relatively new to the tour, he's, had 2 Grand Slam semi-finals now. I think that's impressive. Of course, there's a whole lot of hype around him because, he's American, he's young, he's charismatic. That hype will continue to be there. But I think he would have to learn a whole lot from his match against Yannick Sinner today. Like you said, he had his chances in the first set, served for the first set, had a couple of set points even, but couldn't close it out. And then Sinner just really cruised from then on because he looked depleted. So I think it was a learning experience for Ben Shelton today. But there's so much still in store for this guy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for him to have that opening set marathon that lasted 71 minutes, there's so much more for him. But let's just take a look at the path of Yannick Sinner to the Australian Open final. How he started from the first round, beating Nicolas Jarry 7-6, 7-6, 6-1. And of course, the second round went on to beat Tristan Schoolgate 4-6, 6-4, 6-1. 6-3. That was when he dropped his first set right there in the second round. And in the third round, Marcus Giron, it was 6-3, 6-4, and 6-2. And he went on to the fourth round, Holger Rune, it was 6-3, 3-6, dropping another set again, and 6-3 and 6-4. In the quarterfinals, Alex Dumine, I mean, this was another, it was supposedly supposed to be a very tight game, but somehow the Australian crowd could not carry their home favorites. He ended 6-3, 6-2, and 6-1. Of course, Ben Shelton, I think this is my man of the Australian Open because of his run, up to the semi-final, playing against the very the best at the tournament, 7-6, 6-2, and 6-2. And this first set lasted 71 minutes. And I mean, that was a marathon for him. I mean, 2 set points could have saved, but he just couldn't. And it ended like that. But the next guy, Alexander Zverev, who hasn't won a Grand Slam. He has been to 2 finals of a Grand Slam, but this is his first time of getting to the final of the Australian Open. Lucas Paul was his first opponent in the first round. It was 6-4, 6-4, and 6-4. He went on to the second round. Pedro Martinez, it was 6-1, 6-4, and 6-1. In the third round, Jakob Fenley, it was 6-3, 6-4 and 6-4. Just take a look at the consistency where it was when he got to the first round, you go on breath, then he had to go through a 4-set game, 6-1, dropping the first set for the first one in the first round, 6-3 and 6-2. When in the quarterfinal, it was Tommy Paul, 7-6, 7-6, 2-6, 6-1, and this was his toughest match in the quarterfinal. I thought he didn't have anything left in the tank, going against Novak Djokovic. Of course, Djokovic, after that game against Carlos Alcaraz, it was a walkover, 80 minutes when he was leading, when Zverev was leading 7-6 in the first set. Then it was a walkover because he had to retire injured. Now, Biola, we'll just wrap this up over here. I mean, who is your money on? Because we're having the women, someone who has never won a Grand Slam before, and of course, someone who has won back-to-back at this particular court in Melbourne, and then you also have another player, defending champion, playing against a player who has not also won at the Australian Open, in Melbourne, not even won a Grand Slam at all. But these two players, both the men and the women, who is your money on?
Okay, in the ATP, I think my money is definitely on Yannick Sinner. To be honest, Zverev leads their head-to-head 4-2, but they haven't met so much in the last couple of years. In the last year when Yannick Sinner has been on a different level. They met just once last year when Sinner won in 3 sets. But I think, like we've been talking about, Sinner is just in a different level at this point. He's almost miles ahead of the rest, even the likes of Carlos Alcaraz as well. So I think Yannick Sinner might win it. To be honest, it's almost a head and heart situation for me. I think my head says Yannick Sinner, but my heart is kind of saying Zverev, simply because this would be his 3rd Grand Slam final, and losing it might just crush him. Especially as I feel like he is one of the greatest players of this generation to not have won a slam already. So yeah, it's a head and heart situation, but I'll ultimately go with my head, and that's Yannick Sinner.
Oh, he's number 1 for a reason. All right, number 2 is not getting it for you. Let's talk about the women quickly before we ask Joseph, who is our favorite. Also, for the women, you're also having, of course, Aryna Sabalenka, defending champion 2 times back-to-back, and you also have Madison Keys also in that mix. Who is your money on? I know Austin asked you before, but this is from me. Yeah, Madison Keys or Sabalenka? Truthfully,
it's definitely Sabalenka. I think it will go into 3 sets. It's going to be a tight match, but Sabalenka is going to win it for the 3rd consecutive time.
Well, we're not getting upset from Biola. Biola, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Cecilia.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Joseph, right, before we leave this tennis segment, I'm going to throw one on you before I go to Austin. I mean, for you, Yannick Sinner, a great guy, yes, Alexander Zverev, another top player, but he hasn't won a Grand Slam before. Is this going to be his year?
I feel like for Yannick Sinner, I mean, he's been committing so many sins, and the sins will be, beating his opponents and, making it count on the world when it comes to tennis. Yeah. But like Zverev, I like the girl. That's Biola, if I'm correct. What she said, that it's a two-way thing here. You can give it to Yannick Sinner because of what he's done in the past year and what he's been doing in the world of tennis. But don't forget Alexander Zverev. He's like the Tottenham. He's like the Arsenal when it comes to football. They have this opportunity. They want to sneak in. And so it might come very difficult for the Sinner man himself. And so to me, I'll be placing my money on Alexander Zverev to win. The same way I'll also be speaking about Sabalenka and Madison Keys. Beating Iga Swiatek is no joke. So I believe Madison Keys for me.
Okay, I love you for this. I mean, upset. Austin, I love upset. And that's what Joseph is telling us concerning the Australian Open. So move from here and go to Vegas, right?
I know what Joseph is trying to do, but he knows it's going to be very tough. Yes, we love upset. Yes, we want to report oddity. We want to say, we did not go where everyone seemed to be going. But hey, you can't take it away from, Sabalenka and what she has done with her tennis from last year to date. But then again, Madison Keys is enjoying a good run at the Australian Open. I think 11-game winning streak now. So, Cecilia, promise me that if I predict the women's category, you tell me what will happen with the men. Do I have a deal?
Deal. But you go on a break first. When we come back, I'll tell
Okay. All right. Let's go on that break.
Welcome back. Austin, you are going to do your prediction, right? So
yes, I was going to do my predictions, and then I remembered the rule. It's ladies first. So let me not break the rule. So you go first. Tell me who's going to win the men's singles title, and then I'll go for the women.
Yeah, I know Yannick Sinner will win, but my heart is for Alexander Zverev. I just want him to win that one Grand Slam.
Okay, I know tennis would like to see Arena break records, get us talking. But I love the fact that Madison Keys got us talking after she stunned Iga Swiatek, who is arguably, the most informed female tennis player. So I would like to see another upset. So I'm going for Madison Keys.
Okay. All right. We'll wait. Fingers crossed. Saturday, Sunday, we'll be able to find out that. All right. Super Eagles of Nigeria, 35th edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, taking place in Morocco, a Winter Nations Cup we're going to be having. And of course, the draw will be done on Monday at the National Theatre in Rabat, Morocco, National Theatre. But then the draw will be set on Monday. But we have teams in different ports. Super Eagles of Nigeria is in port 1. But what we have up here, okay, we just started with port 3. Port 3, where you have Gabon, Angola, Zambia, Uganda, Equatorial Guinea, and Benin Republic. And port 4, Mozambique, Comoros, Tanzania, Sudan, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Now let's go to port 1, where you have the Super Eagles of Nigeria. In that same port, you're having Senegal. That same port, you're having Cote d'Ivoire. And of course Egypt. So that's the reason why the Super Eagles of Nigeria would not be facing those top teams in at the group stage. We're going to just have a quick one. The draw is going to be done on Monday. Africa Cup of Nations is what we're always sure of, especially with us not sure of the World Cup. Qualifiers are still running, and as they have a new coach at the end of affairs. But the good thing is all of them will be in Morocco, for this draw to see which side Super Eagles will be facing. But hey, when I saw some headlines reading Super Eagles to avoid Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, and Senegal, I was like, are they really bigger than us? We're 3 times champions for something, right?
Okay, so just to be clear.
Joseph? Okay.
Can you hear?
Okay. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, so you look at Nigeria, and of course, where they're placed in port 1. So what it means is that they would be, avoiding some of these big teams. But the times they've met the big teams in 2022, if I'm correct, when we, defeated Egypt at the group stages, and we went on to, we became the best team in the group stages. So what this means right now is that if you look at the last African Cup of Nations, where we lost to Ivory Coast, one thing played out. You saw the way we struggled against some of the teams we played against before we got to the final. On a good day, South Africa, the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations, we had to go to the penalties. On a good day, that shouldn't be happening. But this time around, we've been placed in port 1. I believe with the new coach that we have in place, with the caliber of players we have, and the promises the coach made, we should get the job done this time. I'm waiting for the draws. And, one thing I've always told my friends who are also sport journalists is that I'm surprised, that I'm baffled that Nigeria has won the African Cup of Nations 3 times. And as a matter of fact, we've gotten to the semis more than 5 times. That is something we need to work on.
Obviously, Austin, in that port 1, you also have Morocco, and of course that's where you also have Algeria. So the top teams ranked in Africa are all in port 1. You have Morocco, you have Senegal, you have Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. You go to port 2, that's where you have Cameroon, Mali, Tunisia, South Africa, DR Congo, and Burkina Faso. Now you look at these teams, and of course the way it's done according to ranking. That's why it's always good for you to be ranked higher, so you don't start your group stage at a very, very difficult level. It simply means wherever we're going to be meeting, maybe in Cameroon, Zambia, or Tanzania, or Sudan, Zimbabwe, or Benin Republic will be in Nigeria's group. That's what this draw has done for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The draw coming up on Monday, well, I know for a fact that group stage will be easy for Super Eagles of Nigeria. It's football, you know. Anything.
Well, you can't, Cecilia. You can't know for a fact after the last AFCON with what the Super Eagles have suffered. We've watched this team lose to Central African Republic. We've watched this
Don't go again.
to draw Lesotho. You struggle to beat Zimbabwe. Struggle to beat Rwanda. So it's difficult. You know, the pots can be very funny. And I was speaking to a friend who is a coach with Tottenham youth team. And he said, when you're playing nations championships, such as the AFCON, the Euros, you want to even play the tough teams in the group stage.
Yeah.
In the year, you want to play those teams because if you beat those teams, you will be in a better standing to advance at the competition. That's one. Two, you will learn lessons even if you don't beat them. You get, if you lose to them, it will now, boost you to say, okay, you lost to a better team, you need to go on. But when you are playing Zambia, Benin Republic, and you take a little bit of complacency into those sort of games, you're finished. You'll be asking questions. Check our run at the last AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire. Remember, the team got revitalized after they beat Cote d'Ivoire. Can you remember?
Yes.
So that's the angle through which I'm looking at it. But when you say you're a big team and you're a team that is playing purposeful football, I think at any level in Africa football, Senegal will play any team and not shake. Morocco, I think, has just gotten into that bracket. You can put Egypt there, for some reasons, particularly what they're doing with their club football and the level of and the amount of talent that they've got. Aside that, I struggle to see any other team. They can beat themselves over and over again. I've seen it, happen over and over again. So let's wait for the draw Monday, Cecilia. The good thing with the Super Eagles now, there is a coach, and what draws do for you immediately it is done. You know the work has started because now you know your opponents. You don't have no excuses anymore. You need to start your scouting work. You need to go, do all of your analysis, your research, what gets into play. You need to start player analysis of your opponents, and then do a lot of work as we wait for the AFCON. All the best to the Super Eagles. They reached the finals last year. Ain't nothing wrong with the Super Eagles, with football lovers in Nigeria saying if you were close to this time around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, looking at the record, 68-year-old tournament, Nigeria, there are 20 previous participation. They've won 16 medals. 16 medals. Out of that 16, you look at just 3 happens to be the major trophy. The others are, golden bronze and, of course, golden silver. That's what the Super Eagles have got in that one. I love what Joseph said about the fact that it's time for us to actually step it up from having those just 3 trophies, add one to it. But Joseph, I'm going to ask you this. I mean, I've been wondering how some of these teams will be able to cope, or some of these countries will be able to cope. I mean, you're having Nations Cup starting on the 21st of December. It will end January 18th. That's both Christmas and the New Year festivities, everything. Yuletide, all of them, these players, they will all be in Morocco, playing a tournament. Will there be a little bit of distraction for them? Because I wasn't comfortable with the timing. When I asked, FIFA CAF Executive Committee member, Amaji Pigne, he was on the show and would ask, like, okay, that's the time, that was, okay for everyone, for them to host that tournament. I'm still very, very much in doubt having a Nations Cup at that time. It could have started January 18 and then February, but starting December, it's kind of, it's 2025.
Okay, so it's the same way, they'll ask, by this time of the day, I probably want to be sleeping, but then, there is a job we have to do, and, it's just what we've collected. And the same thing applies to these players. These are professionals, they have to get their job done. And I feel like the bigger stage will be winning the competition itself. Now, you look at those teams in Pot 1, and, the pressure that lies with them. Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Senegal, you mentioned this countries rather. When last has the Senegalese team won it? You look at maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I remember the last time they did. You look at Nigeria. When last have they won? 2013. So many teams. The guys that are playing for Nigeria, the guys that will represent the country, know fully well the task that lies ahead of them, and the millions of people they'll be representing. So for them, it's not about the time it falls here. It is about winning the competition. It's about representing the millions of people that be watching. And the good part about it is it's the festive period. CAF will not only make a lot of money, but then the amount of people that will be watching will be a record.
Okay, I want to see that happening, especially after what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. Let's quickly move on to the Nigeria Premier Football League. You know, Austin, on Tuesday, on yesterday, yes, we were talking about, we can't wait for the second stanza to start. Of course, it's starting this Saturday. We'll just run through some of the games, or all the games that are taking place across Nigeria. That's match day 20 fixtures from Nigeria Premier Football League. Nasarawa United, this is a big derby against Katsina United, starting the game for the weekend. Kwara United up against 3SC. Rangers and Niger Tornadoes. Niger Tornadoes have got some players that have just joined them out, 6 new signings, and so they will be fired up against Rangers. Sunshine Stars and Ikorodu City will be in action. Abia Warriors and Bayelsa United, also another game that will be played in the NPFL. Now, for Sunday's fixtures, Kano Pillars are up against Economic Warriors, Heartland and Lobby Stars, Plateau United and Rivers United, and Aqua United and Ramos Stars. So, for Coach Kennedy Boboye, he will be welcoming Ramos Stars in the first game in charge. What a way to actually start your time at your new club, Austin.
I know, and there's no excuses now. They've got Kennedy Boboye, they've rested. I'm sure they've done a lot of mental work. Mindset has been, pumped up now to say, look, you are Aqua United. This is the second stanza, and you've just gotten some level of renewed hope. So don't mess it up. Let's see. And that's a good test they're having against Remo Stars that is chasing the title, that is very decent, that is coming out with renewed vigor also. So that game will definitely get us talking. And the Gospel Akpabio Stadium, Remo Stars will look at it and say, teams have gone to this place and they beat Aqua United, so we can do the same. Aqua United, we also want to say, you cannot keep coming here and be beating us. So we're expecting a very big game. Kano Pillars, El Kanemi Warriors will also be a decent fixture. Now, Kano Pillars, I think they're 7th on the log, good win against Aimba. Now, El Kanemi Warriors, whether anybody likes it or not, they were my team of the first stanza because they were very disciplined.
Yeah.
I think they didn't concede goals the way teams were conceding away from home. And at some point till about March, I think 12 or 13, they were still unbeaten. So that's a team that is on a mission. That's a team that actually looked at their season, started poorly and said, no, we cannot continue this one, and then they turned it around. Another good game will definitely be Abia Warriors by Elsa United. I'm also looking forward to seeing what Aimba can do against Bendel Insurance. Bendel Insurance also is a team that must show workings in this second stanza. So let's see what that will give us. Heartland were they were to an extent very decent last season, particularly that they went away from home one time, got away wins here and there, and then picked up under Coach Emmanuel Amuni. But Lobby Stars also needs to show working, so that makes that game a very tricky one. And when you are coming from this break, Cecilia, some level of complacency, some teams are too relaxed now, so you're likely to see some stunning results. I'm here for the drama. Bring it on.
Definitely, that's what we're here for. Joseph, which one gets you talking all these games for this weekend?
It has to be Remo Stars. I mean, I've been looking forward to that team, Remo Stars, and what they've been doing. I'm sorry to say, they're like the Arsenal of the English Premier League. Twice a day, shone like a million stars, showing the world that they can get it done in the Nigerian Premier Football League, which is one of the most difficult league in the world. But then Remo Stars, this time around, they're telling you, and they're making a statement with that they want to win the Nigerian Premier Football League. And you know how difficult it is winning games away from home. That game away from home is one I want to watch. And if they can win that, they're making a statement already that they want to win truly.
Okay, hope they can actually do that. Let's move to the English Premier League. And one of the biggest games of this weekend happens to be Chelsea and Manchester City. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola has assured their fans, everyone, that Champions League next season they're making because they're struggling in the current league. 25th position, like from 25th to 36th, they're struggling to see if they can even get to play in the playoff. That's what is happening in the Champions League currently. But then in the English Premier League, he wants to see how he can finish top 4. That's what he has been saying. So against Chelsea, that will be the game that will conclude games for Saturday. But Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest will start it off. Brighton and Everton, Liverpool and Ipswich Town, Southampton and Newcastle. You have Wolves and Arsenal, and of course Manchester City and Chelsea completing the Saturday's fixtures. For Sunday, also you have Manchester United up against Fulham. Yes, that's the game that will end the day. Crystal Palace will start it off on Sunday against Brentford. Tottenham, coming from that fantastic game against Hoffenheim in the Europa League, will be hosting Leicester City, who are still struggling. Ruud van Nistelrooy is in trouble on that one. Aston Villa will be hosting West Ham United. They denied Arsenal of a clean victory. No, the last time they faced each other. Let's listen quickly to Pep Guardiola. Talking ahead of this game. We'll also get to hear from Chelsea manager, because Pep Guardiola's got some players coming in, and he believes all of them can actually start in the game against Chelsea.
Yeah, really important for the quality of the side. Always Chelsea have been. They're closing the table. Even the big problems that we had in the past and recent past, and yeah, goal this week is really important. The next 2 games are finals for us, so we're going to, with our people, that they're going to support us to do good performance and take the results that we need. You can ask me as well, what nice will be you qualify for the Champions League. So what's going to happen, I'm going to answer, but I'm thinking it's going to happen. Always I'm very, very positive with always the next target.
Always in that Champions League spot, they will get it, but they have to start winning. They have to, start the consistency they had at the beginning of the season, which have actually eluded them, some time right now. Austin, having these new players coming in, Pep Guardiola is assuring that they can actually start against Chelsea, and not just that top 4, the people are thinking they may not be able to finish. Some might even say they might go on relegation. Hey, he's not thinking along that line at all, because right now, Manchester City, they're 5th on the table. They have this terrible result, you would say. But then that 12 points lead Liverpool is having at the top of the table, is something to be afraid of when you look at it and look at the position Pep's currently in 5th on the table.
I think what people need to do, particularly fans of the Premier League, they need to stop looking at Manchester City and their problems. That might just be their biggest distraction. Okay, let's take a look at Manchester City in their last 4 games.
Yeah.
It is 3 wins, a draw, and a loss. Let's look at Chelsea. A loss, a draw, 2 wins, and a draw. So even on current form, you still want to give it to Manchester City ahead of Chelsea. And football is funny. Now we've gotten to a stage where teams are beginning to, do things that shows where they are going for the remainder of the season. And of all the teams in the Premier League, tell me who has shown more intent, like Manchester City. Yes, they have dropped points. They've gone through a very turbulent last 3 or 4 months, but it is still Manchester City. On a good day, player by player, Cecilia, if you want to look at individual brilliance, City is still a better team than Chelsea. So this is the sort of game that Pep can just look at his team and say, you lost that PSG game because PSG dug deep, did what they had to do. But if you see the way they solved Ipswich in their last game in the Premier League, you will know this is a team that Pep wants to still be feared and respected. So everyone should calm down. They are not down there on the table, and we know for sure that money stops nonsense. So that's 115 charges that we're talking about. People can only dream, but it's going to be very difficult to think that a verdict to come out and will now strip Manchester City of their top flight status, get them relegated. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I will be so damned, if that just comes out against Manchester City. So it's going to be a very interesting game of football. I'm looking forward to it. I call Chelsea to be one of that team that can also really get us talking this season, and I'm glad they're doing that. So let's listen to Enzo Maresca. I tell people that it came with a bit of magic, but I don't know if it's got the Midas touch yet. Let's listen to him.
Be strong enoug is strong enough in these kind of things. But for sure, like any human being, he needs support in this moment. But as I said, if you think a little bit the last 8-9 years, unless probably the last 4 months, then the rest they were top always, winning titles, win important trophy is something normal. I think this kind of club with this kind of players, when they are probably in a difficult moment, is when they want to show how good they are. They want to go against everyone, saying, okay, if you think that we are not good enough, we're gonna show you how good we are. So I don't think there is a good moment to play against City. Yeah, no, my contact with him, with the club, is fantastic. I said it many times. I'm very. I will be always thankful to the Manchester City club. The reason why is because they called me back after an Italian club sacked me after 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. So that show trust, confidence, faith. So I will be always thankful in these kind of things to the club, and also for sure to Pep, because we have both manager, but first of all we have fantastic relation in terms of friendship.
Important people know that this is also Pep's boy. Joseph, in 1 minute, tell me, in the last 2 seasons, Chelsea, they've shown that they can go to the Etihad and compete, get a point, or even win. Can they do the same tomorrow?
Well, they can. And of course, I feel like Enzo Maresca was, at some points playing the mind games. They are not here for the league title. They are not here to win the title. Believing the players of the player and all that. It's a different ball game entirely. The AFC rather has seen how difficult the Premier League is. And you spoke about Manchester City. They are now also doing well. We saw what happened in the Champions League relinquishing, 2-goal lead in that one. So for me, I see a draw written all over this picture. But then Manchester City knows what is at stake right now. They have to prove to their fans that they have got it. So they have to get at least the points in this game. So for me, I feel like I'm queuing behind Manchester City to get a point.
I know. People would want to see that game, really get competitive. Cecilia, a team that really gets people talking. They just have to dig deep yesterday in the Europa League. That's Manchester United. Let's listen to Ruben Amorim. They've got a tricky tie coming up against Fulham on Sunday.
We may not have time to take Ruben Amorim and this one. Let's just quickly wrap up the show with this one. I mean, with Belgium having a new coach, Rudy Garcia. He was unveiled today, and he's thinking of how he's going to bring in those players who have been opting out of playing in Nations League, and that's why the countries they were in trouble in the Nations League. Thibaut Courtois opted out after he was overlooked captain ban, and of course you have the likes of Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, who opted out not to play in their last Nations League. But he's trying to see how he can actually bring in these players back into the squad. Is this something he can really do, Joseph? I mean, when you have your top players leaving, and of course right now they're trying to build the team again around Rudy Garcia coming to coach this Belgium national team. Remember in March, that's when they'll be facing Ukraine in that 2-legged promotion or relegation tie to retain their place in the top tier Nations League A.
So I feel like for the Belgian national team, one thing they failed to do, it's quite unfortunate actually, is that they failed to pick in the youngsters that were coming from the league, or the youngsters that were playing from different leagues. Unlike what the German team did after they failed in 2018. You saw what they did. The Kevin Boateng, these guys were dropped. A lot of things needs to be done in the Belgian national team. They called them the new revelation at some point, but it's not working. But I hope that at this point, recalling these guys won't be best for them. They have one of the best leagues. I mean, if you're talking about the top 12 leagues in the world, you talk about the Belgium National League, they need to look inwards, get the players, give it time, like the German national team did.
Right. Okay.
And of course, they'll be there.
Yeah, they will be there. Austin, we got to go.
We gotta go, Cecilia. Thank God it's Friday, and with everything we've talked about, we're getting into an action-packed weekend of sporting activities, from the Australian Open to the Premier League to the Nigeria Premier Football League. So much going on in our world of sports, and that's why We will be back next week to keep talking sports. That's it. In London, I'm Austin Okonak, and in everything you do, remember, keep talking sports. Bye for now.
Joseph Atero, it was nice doing this with you again on Sport Tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cecilia Omogbe. So have a good night's rest. But we're leaving you with semi-finals of the Australian Open for the men's singles. Good night.